welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the 2:15 Marathon Project. It's 2025, Happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully you have some big goals set for the year. Obviously mine's to run 2:15 or as close as possible to 2:15 in the marathon, and I'll be sharing everything that I'm doing to try and achieve that time this year by racing a lot more frequently over the marathon, as mentioned in the last episode. So I'll be racing a marathon probably every month. I won't be forcing that to happen. If I am sick or injured, of course I won't do that, but it'll be racing probably every 4 to 8 weeks, maybe even 4 to 6 weeks. So the next one is Houston in 2 weeks, as of the time of filming this anyway, maybe just less by the time this video comes out. But this episode is all about gym and strength training, because last year in 2024, I would say I didn't take this super seriously. I did gym, probably an average of 1.5 times a week, as in some weeks I did 2 a week, sometimes I just did 1 a week, and I was doing it just on intuition. So I was just coming up with a few exercises that I thought would help me, and I feel like it helped a little bit, but I'm taking it a lot more seriously this year, and I'll share everything that I'm doing, and you can potentially take some ideas from what I'm doing. So I'm going to be using a mobile app this year called Valair, which is a company that started around a year or a year and a half ago, I believe. The triathlete Ironman Joe Skipper introduced me to it about a year ago, and I've been familiar with it for quite some time, but I'm finally actually implementing it and trying it out properly, and I've been using it for the last couple of weeks. So in this episode, I share a conversation that I had last week with Kate Baldwin, who is a strength and conditioning coach. She is a owner of Valair, and we run through all the exercises that I was doing, what she thinks about them, and all the exercises that I will be doing moving forward, at least in the very near future. That'll change over time in the Valair app. This is not a sponsored video by Valair. They are not paying me anything at all. Very soon I might have a promotion code to use for Valair. At the moment I don't. So this is just purely what I've decided to do and sharing the gym exercises that I'm doing with no sponsorship. So the actual sponsor of this video is Soar. So a huge thank you to Soar for sponsoring this video once again. I've been using Soar pretty much every single day in training for the last 2.5 years, and I love their stuff so much. Thank you so much to Soar, obviously wearing their kit today, and they are the sponsor of this video, and you can score 15% off by heading to the link in the description to head you straight to the Soar website, and yeah, once again, the discount code applies straight away for 15% off. So thank you to Soar for sponsoring this video. I'll be wearing Soar every day this year, no doubt, but I hope that you enjoy this episode all about strength training and gym, as we go through everything that I'll be doing to combat the cramping that is still happening in my marathons, and to also hopefully improve performance. So feel free to take any of these ideas yourself, and do go and check out Valair as well if you are interested in strength training at a lower cost, because if you're like me, I can't really afford to pay a PT every single workout, and many people can't do that. So this is a low-cost option for you to take to do strength training. Also, before I transition over to the conversation I had with Kate last week, we just started a new company, I mentioned in the last video, Globe Runners, which is basically the Sweat Elite training camps that used to happen to Kenya and Portugal. We've renamed it Globe Runners because a lot of people thought that the name Sweat Elite, they thought it was for professional runners or elite runners only. These experiences are for everyone, and if you like to travel and run and eat, these are for you. We're having one in Boulder coming up in April from the 4th to the 7th, and there's also an extension as well if you want to stay longer than just the 4 days. Our Arizona camp sold out at the end of January, early February, so I'm really excited for that, and there'll be plenty more coming in the near future. So the link is in the description of this video, Globe Runners, thegloberunners.com, and if you haven't been to Boulder and you really want to, we're having that experience coming up very soon. I anticipate it'll probably sell out in 2 to 3 weeks, so get in on it early. It should be out by the time this video comes out. If it's not, it's very soon, so keep an eye on that website, or just follow us on Instagram. You'll see when it is released, but it may be already open, and if so, do join us on there for an experience including lots of training, education, exploring Boulder and the surroundings, and of course, plenty of fun as well. So hope you can join us. Thanks for joining me. So could you explain a little bit about who you are, what you've built, and anything else that comes to mind?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a physiotherapist and sports scientist. And when I graduated uni, I became frustrated at the lack of exercise prescription, particularly for athletes when it came to physiotherapy. I found a lot of people just do a lot of hands-on treatment that was short-term benefits for athletes. And I really wanted to make a substantial difference to athletes and their injury resilience and their performance. So I applied a lot of my sports science knowledge, lots of strength and conditioning. And then that led me down the field to do my PhD looking at the effects of strength training for injury prevention and performance in endurance athletes. And now that's really taken off, and that's what I love to do. So I love to help runners, triathletes, all endurance athletes be able to incorporate strength training for both injury resistance and also performance in their routine. So just helping demystify strength training for endurance athletes, which I see often is done wrong. So it's just really helping athletes get the most out of themselves.
Yeah, awesome. And you've worked with many of the best triathletes in the world and many top runners as well.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for helping me with my strength training, because to this point, I've kind of been winging it, even though I have taken bits and pieces of your advice up to this date, but now I'm all in. So, what do you think about the strength training I was doing up until this point, sort of since April to now, in the four basic exercises in the gym?
I think you picked four really good exercises, to be honest. I think that you really nailed it. I think there's a couple of little tweaks that, knowing you and your history, and also just obviously you're a marathon runner, so keeping that in mind, that you could make to really optimize it. So your Bulgarian split squats are such a good exercise choice, especially if you don't have access to, say, squat rack. So Bulgarian split squats are a great option because they're single leg. They work every muscle group in your lower limbs and lots of stability as well as strength. I think that changing the set and rep range, like we talked about, is definitely the way to go for you. So doing the 10 reps that you were doing, 3 sets of 10, was good, but bringing those reps down and the weight up is just going to help fine tune those for you. Your Nordic hamstring curls, I love Nordics. They're such a good hamstring exercise choice. But for you in particular, Matt, when we're talking about your cramping, we know that a big part of that for you is more hamstring origin. So more right at the top of the hamstrings. And it was interesting because I know that for you, it was sort of all of your hamstrings that were cramping at the start. But then you said you noticed it less around your knees. It was more really at the glute origin, more at the hips. So changing those out for one that's more hip dominant is a no-brainer for you. So as good as Nordics are, keeping it specific to you, doing a slight change in more hip-based hamstring exercise for you is the way to go. Your leg press that you were doing, I think, was also a really good choice, but you're doing them double leg. I think that if we were going to keep them in, I know we temporarily remove them, but single leg is always the way to go. I always say to runners or cyclists or triathletes, I say, you run single leg. Always do single leg exercises where you can. And a lot of athletes say to me, but I don't like that because I feel so weak when I do it. I say, that's exactly the point. That's why you should be doing them, because we usually have one side stronger than the other, right? So as good as they are, single legs definitely better. And your calf raises were also such a good exercise choice for you, but they were straight leg, and keeping those bent knee is definitely the way to go. One, for all runners, doing a form of bent knee calf raise is ideal, because then you work that soleus muscle rather than gastroc. So gastroc's more of the fast twitch muscle fibers, whereas soleus is the slow twitch muscle fibers. Knowing you and your history as well of having some Achilles tendinopathy before, that was really niggly for you. We know that, in fact, some research shows that around 70 to 80% of Achilles tendinopathy, the cause of it is actually from weakness in the soleus, not the gastroc. So working on that for you, I think, is really important, and also for performance. So changing those to that bent knee is optimizing those calf raises for you. And again, rep range coming low, weights going heavier, so we really get your change in Achilles tendon stiffness as well. Overall, I think you did a really good job of picking your own exercises, but small tweaks make a big difference come race day.
For sure. And I've also seen evidence, in research I've looked at, to show that the hamstring information that you just said then is clearly something that I missed. So, you designed a plan for me that's sort of similar, but quite a lot of small differences, like you said. What will we be doing moving forward? Because I've already done 2 of the workouts. I've got 3 coming up this week, and I've got a couple more questions off the back of that. But what's been planned for this next cycle of strength training?
Yeah, well, keeping in mind for you, between now and Houston, we don't have too long, so we don't want to go reinventing the wheel. You're already performing really well, and you're staying pretty injury proof, so we don't want to change too much too drastically. So we're going to make small tweaks, like you said. So we've taken out your Bulgarians, we've replaced them with some single leg RDLs, so single leg Romanian deadlifts. Point of that for you is because I know that one of the biggest things that's stopping you from hitting your time goal is that hamstring cramping, especially at the origin. So doing some single leg hip dominant movement where we can target your hamstrings, I think is going to be great. Also some really good glute med stability in there and some core strength too. We've put in some single leg pogos on a step for you, which apparently are a little bit too easy for you, but I think that they're the perfect way to add plyometrics in for you, because I know you've always sort of said that bit of the weakness in that 1500 to 3K kind of speed. So I'm hoping adding in a bit of strength with those pogos, working on your reactive strength through your Achilles, but also some good rate of force development through your hip flexors is going to be really good for you too. So we'll do those 2 as your, what we call that activation kind of exercises. And then your main set Taking out your leg press, as much as I said it was good, but adding in a glute hamstring raise or your makeshift one that you do at the gym at the moment. So that's just loading up your hamstrings in a heavier way. And again, focusing on the hip dominant movement for you so we can hopefully minimize that cramping on the back end of your race. So bringing those reps down to giving you 5 reps of those, but making them quite hard. So really strengthening up those hamstrings. And that's on the same process and that same thought of some single leg hamstring pulls. So what we do with those is pop you on a cable machine, keep your legs straight, work on your hamstring strengthening whilst they're in that lengthened position, because we know that's when they're under the most load for you or for any runner, and it's really working them really beautifully and eccentrically, and that's going to hopefully really improve that eccentric strength and again hopefully minimize your cramping risk. And we know also that eccentric strength is also associated with running economy. So even cramping aside, those two, the glute ham raise and straight leg hamstring pull for you, are just going to be perfect to help maximize your running economy, which of course is going to help you on race day. And then adding in that bent knee calf raise, like what we talked about, but we've gone for that tempo one for you. So we've got the pogos to work on the explosiveness through your Achilles, but we really want to work on loading up nice and heavy through your soleus and through your Achilles tendon. So going for those single leg tempo calf raises where we can work on the maximal strength through there, and that's also to help minimize that cramping that you feel in your lower limb as well that you've had before. So again, a beautiful kind of choice for you where we work on performance, but we're also minimizing cramping and risk of injury for you. So that's going to be the overall theme, I think, of your at least the start of 2025. Minimize cramping and just get really, really nice and resilient and strong, and some nice reactive strength too.
Yeah, very well explained. I guess one question many people have is, where do you fit these gym training sessions into the week? Because I've typically done them same day as a hard running workout in the morning, gym in the afternoon. Heard different things about, different opinions. What's your opinion on that?
Well, first of all, I do really think it's very individualized. So in your case, Matt, like for you doing it on a hard workout day makes sense because you've consistently done those other 4 exercises, like you said, pretty much twice a week for quite a while. So your body's quite conditioned to doing some form of strength training, and we've only made smaller tweaks to your program. So we can then afford to go, look, your body's still conditioned to it. You're not pulling up super sore from the session. So you could do them on the same day as an intense workout. And I would say always do your intense run session or your interval run session first, gym second, because we can modify the weights of your gym session, right, based on your fatigue. But you don't want to go into your run excessively fatigued from your gym session, change, say, your biomechanics or not quite be under your targets, because then you're not going to get the most out of your endurance session, right? I would say anyone that has a form of tendinopathy or inflammation, say like a lot of runners wake up in the morning, they feel like quite stiff and sore, right? Sometimes doing a really good, simple, basic strength program first session of the day can really improve blood flow, help inflammation, can actually help set up for a better, if you just have, say, an easier 45, 50, 60-minute run in the afternoon. Sometimes doing a strength session first is really good. There's a little bit of research that can show that it can increase natural testosterone and can actually help performance of your later session in the day, but I wouldn't recommend that to new runners. So this is where it gets really individual, right? If you're newer to running and if you're still getting used to that load, I would say always put your run first. But if you've done running for quite a while, if you've done strength training for a little while, I would definitely have a play around with those sessions and see what works for you. You might actually find the strength training helps improve your running later on in the day.
Awesome. Final question for you, for people that do have a little bit of worry about this. Some people, I guess, are a bit concerned about weight gain when it comes to strength training. I'm personally not, but what would you say to someone in less than a minute about that concern? Also, I guess off the back of that, is there anything that you can do nutrition-wise, in your opinion, that can prevent that from happening?
Yeah, this is such a common concern from runners. So first of all, there's actually some research that shows that doing endurance training negatively affects cellular pathways that are responsible for hypertrophy. So in layman's terms, endurance training actually inhibits muscle growth. Okay, so if you're doing quite a bit of running, it's actually really, really hard to bulk up. It's really hard to bulk up and be able to eat enough, especially if you're doing big running Ks. So trying to be in a caloric surplus enough to actually build muscle is really tough. Like you'd have to make a lot of a conscious effort to actually be able to bulk up. So I understand the concern, but it generally doesn't happen. And that's what pretty much all of your research shows, is that in runners who do strength training, there's no change in body mass. There may be a slight change in body composition, but the overall body mass does not change. And you can actually have a really good influence from a slight change in body composition, because you're actually going to be able to improve your fatigue resistance if you have that. So it's a good thing, but your overall body mass doesn't change. So understand, but generally it's not going to happen.
Awesome. No, thanks so much for everything, and thanks for your time today. I'm looking forward to seeing how this strength training plan goes moving into the future.
Oh, me too, Matt. Love working with you.